Mention the bones of a bridge or something. Anyway, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another scene set within Odessa the Dark Crusade Season 2. Tonight, we set the scene within a place of miracles, Justinopolis Mount. A great district where the grandest mosque in the county stands, a place where even angels have descended to impart God's message upon the masses. The religious fervor from the event still reverberates throughout the entire district. There are a lot of people out at night now, still waiting for another sign, still looking for the shards of a particular sword that fell from the mosque itself. It is a very busy night here, both the watch and the priesthood have their hands full, and are having a great difficulty containing the fervor and the festivities of the common populace, who are now insisting on coming out to the mount even at night, just apart from hoping that there'll be another sign that they have earned God's blessing in some form or another. But today is not one of those nights. Tonight is a much darker, more morbid affair between the aptly grim members of Clan Cappadocian, many of whom live close to or within Justinopolis Mount. And so it is that good Primogen Martirossi, or Primogen Bones, whatever you prefer to be called.
We'll go with Primogen Bones. That sounds good.
I knew you were gonna, yeah, I figured. Shouldn't even fucking ask. Primogen Bones. You've had your presence requested at the residence, or the purported residence, of Lucretia Giovanni, bloodline of Giovanni. There is a simple matter to conclude and resolve between elder members of the clan. The issue of your former primogen. So you're able to make your way over to Justinopolis. You know where Lucretia has asked you to meet. The house is fairly humble. Well maintained. It's in Justinopolis, fairly affluent district, but smallish. Conjoined to several other houses. How do you make your way there?
Good point. I was about to mention that the Merchant of Bones would have arranged, would have his main ghoul, Mildred, arrange for a carriage. He understands that with the recent miracle, in quotations, that happened, that Probably they will most likely need to find an alternate route getting into Justinopolis Mount, and might require um, some maneuvering. And considering that Virgin Bones is a deep sleeper and also disabled, him making anywhere by foot would be probably not impossible, but painstaking, annoying. And also, if he is capable of bringing back the torpored body of Baijan, um, the carriage would probably be necessary, most likely necessary.
Of course, your ghoul will take you within your preferred carriage to this particular location. As you do travel along the well-worn but well-maintained roads, you do successfully manage to avoid the roving patrols of rogue canites, given that you are safely contained within a carriage and as such not perceivable to them. But you do note something. Would you like to roll your perception awareness? One second, I'm going to set up the roll real quick. The dice roller. Uh, and dice roll 1.
One success, I'm assuming.
Okay. Do you have perception up? All specs up, sorry?
Am I allowed to?
Yeah, I'll let you do it.
Okay.
I'm trying to be a nicer ST. I'm failing, but you know.
That'll be 1, 2. Well, what's the original difficulty?
It would have been 6. So actually, it's diff 3. So you get 5 successes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, then it's very, very obvious to you. It's not as severe, but this is a somewhat similar feeling to what you got when you during the few times you've been within Abraham's Fountain. This place is saturated with belief and faith. It's not a particularly healthy place for a canine to be.
Yeah. Okay. He's gonna shift kind of uncomfortably. Yeah, it's almost as if some of that mortal feeling of discomfort's coming back to him. His ghoul might even look at him kind of like, like what's going on. With as much as he shifts, because I mean he's a canine. He doesn't, especially being Road of Bones and stuff like that. Like nothing much seems to really get past that that stalwart mind and cut off
Yeah,
emotion.
the very kind of cold, stoic nature that is your road, and that is Dimension of Bones.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps all the more noteworthy then that you do shift.
Yeah.
Just because of how uncomfortable it is, you're usually quite statuesque.
Yep.
Like minute human functions are long forgotten to you.
But he'll just look at Mildred and just give her this look of like, don't even ask.
Mildred does the intelligent thing, does not ask.
But yeah, he just simply grips his hand around the top of his cane even tighter, and just kind of after a while just situates himself again, um, assuming that well, it's Justinopolis Mount, so this place is probably still kind of permanent as long as he's going to be there. So, but yeah.
Yeah, eventually it does take you a little bit to find a place to park the carriage because it's like it's on a conjoined set of houses.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to the carriage will have to be taken around, kind of down a fair distance. You can what Mildred does is he parks if you're outside the haven or the house, and
Mm-hmm.
he'll what he'll do is he will basically take it further. He'll basically say that he's going to take it further down the street so you can find a safe place to put it, somewhere a bit more discreet.
Okay.
And will and he will just inform you. He will just wait outside the haven to guide you to it once you are concluded with your business.
And Merchant of Bones will agree to all this and kind of just give like a robotic reply or a practice reply of thank you. I mean, no, Cappadocians are actually pretty good to their servants, actually. So yeah, it'll be one. It would be there would be a sense of appreciation there that you would get from the Merchant of Bones.
Yeah, it's sort of mutual appreciation for each other's work.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, it's. I mean, he's your ghoul. Needless to say, he doesn't really have the choice but to respond in turn. But he does so, and it is well composed. And he will take the carriage away around the street, and you are left with a um, the location you were meant to be at, well built house. Uh, Made in stone, a flat roof, a couple of floors.
Yeah, MLB will, assuming there's no kind of guard or anything, or kind of like doorman or something, he'll approach and he'll use the back of his cane, the metal handle part to actually tap on the door and wait.
It is Lucretia who opens the door. Fairly suspiciously, she's like that person who kind of peeks her head around the door as she opens it. And she does so. She smiles at you as she recognizes you. Ah, my good Primogen, welcome to my humble home. Please come on in.
MLB will step in and just kind of look around, using again heightened senses and all that. And
You do not feel the sense of sickness that you had outside. This place is strangely free of such things.
MLB will just stand in place and kind of like roll his shoulders and almost seem to visibly relax. It's probably a little unnerving for a vampire who's noticeably usually statuesque. I'm assuming they would probably sympathize in that manner.
Yeah, Lucretia sees you um, in distress as she just goes, a stressful evening.
It seems the latest event, the miracle over the mosque, has caused. Would Merchant of Bows understand that or know that?
I'm
What exactly?
pardon?
Would Merchant of Bones actually understand that phenomena, though?
Um, uh,
But he does. Oh, he
you have precisely no idea what the fuck happened over there, to be completely honest. You know what the people are saying, you know what was made on the post I made, basically.
gotcha. Okay.
Um, but um,
I gotcha. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. It's you basically know what everybody else is doing. Do you have religious contacts?
No, I don't.
Okay, yeah. Then you don't really have access to any information other than what the news on the street is.
Gotcha. But he'll continue to say that the uneasiness of the fountain has seemed to spill over and into the mosque. Is caught my attention, and it's almost like sitting on needles.
Ah, yes. Very interesting event indeed. It's actually caused me to change the tone of my research entirely. I hope there's another incident like that. I might be able to ascertain precisely what is going on.
Hmm.
It's interesting how those from beyond other realms seem to imbue this land with unnatural life. I want to see if it can be replicated in another way.
Hmm. Such is the way that necromancy seems to work with its remnants and its curse, Squela.
Ah, yes. Well, I have found that the localized squealer does seem to have a dampening effect on the natural flow of such faith and belief, which lends me to believe that it is a. She tilts her head. It leads me to believe that the effect is not just belief in its own right, but an effect more complex than that. But
From my limited understanding, I would most likely agree with you on that sentiment. Then again, like I said, I don't have much knowledge in the way of this phenomena here. Though I'd be interested to listen to which you have going on with your research sometime. You don't have to tell me particulars, but a general baseline might be.
oh, it's quite a novel little discovery. It's really something I stumbled upon by accident. After all, I've felt similar effects. Felt the same effects that you've been feeling throughout this district, and but I've noted that that this building is not affected in the same way.
Hmm.
It appears that the entropic effects of necromancy seem to have some sort of dampening effect on the mystical effects of faith in the city. It is quite interesting, but I'm not sure to what extent it is functioning. Whether it could be used, more severe amounts of Squela could be used to counter greater effects of faith, or whether the faith can counter the Squela, or vice versa. I would need to spend more time researching this, and that requires me spending a great deal of time near Abraham's Fountain, which I'm not too keen on doing, given the reputation that place has. But
Also,
well,
seems to dwell there as well.
yes, no, I do not believe she is my friend in any way. In fact, I'm pretty sure she would kill me on sight. I'm not going there anytime soon.
Merchant of Bones just kind of actually smiles and chuckles at that.
I'm going to take my time on the opposite end of the city, enjoying my life.
And he kind of just steps further in the room, kind of indicating he's ready to get on with things, but he just says, if there is anything that we are not lacking, it is time.
Yeah, it's a fairly nice looking living room you're in currently. There are a few servants tending to the space, one brushing up, another appears to be in a kitchen space simply cooking something for themselves. But yeah, speaking of enjoying life, I believe we have A matter to settle.
That we do. I'm most interested to see the outcome of this. Has Lady Astor arrived yet?
Yes, she is already waiting for us. In fact, it's been a bit rude of me to keep her waiting like this, so we should hurry.
Not a problem.
Really?
Hmm?
I think it is a problem for Mr. Bones.
Wait, what?
He's
I'm
he's
confused.
he's a very slow man.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. I mean, that's
it's,
kind of like
it's
what he
not
was.
it's not a great distance. I'm just joshing him.
Threw me off there for a second. I was like, wait, what?
Rigor mortis.
You're coming. You're coming. You're slowing down with me.
Anyway, but yeah, you're able to make your way down. She actually takes you to the basement level
Mm-hmm.
because, of course. Um, but yes.
MLB's gonna be an asshole, and I think he's gonna activate because she's Giovanni after all, and this is kind of him being around a Giovanni for the first time actually in their haven. So, what is it? The one that lets me see ghosts. I think it's like Cenotaph 1 or 2, or even Sepulchre 1.
It's Sepulchre. Cenotaph is all about identifying and constructing fetters.
Okay, yeah. So Sepulchre. I just need to try to see what the role is for that.
I think it's just perception. Yeah, it's perception minus diff 5, I think. It's not very hard.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, he has it.
Okay. Just gonna double check the ability, but it's fairly straightforward. Yeah. So yeah, you spot numerous spiritual servitors in this place. Quite a lot, actually. There's about there's about 4 that are kind of acting as your escort, and 2 that are acting as hers. They seem to look at you very oddly when you look at them. They tilt their heads.
Yeah, MLB just kind of really just plays it off like he just doesn't, almost as if something caught his eye, like a painting or something on the wall. As soon as like they kind of look at him, he kind of like turns away.
You want to roll me wits occult real quick? Diff 5.
With my wits, I think. Oh, okay. 1, 2. You said diff 5?
Diff 5, yeah. It's not particularly hard for you to recognize.
6.
Okay, perhaps it's because it's the first time you're really using this power, or because you're not really well versed in it. You very quickly realize when the ghosts, the wraiths look at you.
Mm-hmm.
You realize one of the side effects of what you're doing is that your eyes go very bright blue to wraiths when you use this power. They can recognize when someone is looking at them like this.
Interesting.
They don't seem particularly offended, for the record. Rather, they just seem to stare back at you.
Gotcha. Okay. MLB just takes a note and then fuck it, he'll leave it on for now.
Yes, to all other figures in the physical realm, including Lucretia, your eyes do not glow blue, but Race can perceive your eyes as glowing an unnatural hue. But yeah, she leads you down to the basement level where there is Lady Astor. She's taken a seat on a table that has an almost unrecognizable Blaijan. He bears only really his leggings now. His chest has been dissected and sewn back together numerous times. You can see that one of his arms was severed and put back, and again stitched back on. You can see numerous lacerations to the face and the torso. Locks of his hair have been cut off and taken away to God's knows where.
Mm-hmm.
Frankly, he looks like the corpse of a Frankenstein. He just sits there, or rather lays there, staked on the table, like a corpse awaiting autopsy, or rather a corpse that has already undergone some form of autopsy.
Mm-hmm.
And Lady Astor just sat herself up, kind of on the center right side of the table, just kind of looking over it rather smugly, never so slightly hungry, almost as if she's ready for dinner. And then she looks up towards you both and will stand up very politely. Ah, my host and my primogen.
It's good to see you, Lady Astor. It's good to see that the what is going on within the city has not touched or blemished your mood or your brow.
How could it? How could I not be happy? So much has gone so right for me in the past few months. I have to say I'm quite satisfied with recent events, even if they have cost the city some baubles.
The Merchant of Bones will kind of like again shuffle forth, and he'll take his gloves off and set his cane up against the table, and he'll look at the body of Bajan, but also listen to not Madeline, fucking Lady Astor, excuse me. I don't know why I was thinking of Madeline. But he will run his hand over the stomach of Bajan and let his fingers trace over the stitching of his chest, or the stitchings in his chest. He's checking out basically the work that has been done, because he is a surgeon, and he places a lot of care and patience into what he does, especially when it comes to surgery. So he's basically checking out like the actual like cutting and stitch work, and kind of like formulating it in his head, just like how good of a job this was. Um, it's kind of it's just really weird and creepy how he's doing it, and how he kind of like eventually ends up over the head of Baijan, and again pushes it, uses the other hand to kind of like trace over like the, I guess assuming like the Y section, the top, the dual points over the chest on each shoulder, and then runs his fingers like over Baijan's face.
the medical work here is actually quite immaculate. How many dots in medicine do you have?
4.
Yeah, it's about maybe even slightly above your overall skill level. It's definitely work that is fit for an expert in their field. The actual restitching of the body is one of the more impressive aspects. Despite the body being clearly taken apart and dissected and put back together again, if it weren't for the stitching, you'd be fairly hard pressed to perceive any irregularities. Although you can perceive maybe one or two. It's not quite perfect work, but it is fairly close. It is about as good as one could ask for.
The Merchant of Bones will just kind of delightfully sigh to himself. Though once Lady Astor is done, he will just reply that, well then I am glad that the tidings for you are good. I hope it continues to be in your favor. By the way, is this your work, Lucretia? I have to say the stitching or the cutting on this, or the cutting on his body, and excuse me, the cuts into the body are near perfect. I believe that this was a mortal that they would experience minimal scarring. I do detect one or two imperfections, but they are very small and minimal at best.
Well, thank you. Yes, well, I couldn't leave a task up to anyone other than myself. In fact, given this particular elder's uh, impervious impervious frame, I think it would have been we would have been hard pressed to find anyone more suitable for the role. I even had to apply some of my natural strength to force a knife through at times. I'm pleasantly surprised that it turned out so well. It was quite the trial to cut this one open, as it were. She kind of gives a rather sardonic smile towards the corpse.
Well, for all the ordeal behind it, I certainly hope that it provided you the answers that you were looking for. You certainly treated it like it did.
It is uh, it is not uh, it is not a frequent experience that I get to perform some physiological research on an elder of our kind. So I definitely took my time to nourish in the experience.
Hmm. Well, I can certainly say that you have given me a new measure of my own skill, and I have to say that if this is some of your best work, then I seriously need to get back under the putting people back under the knife, and soon it seems.
I always appreciate a bit of competition to keep me honest.
And he just smiles. So, he says, kind of standing up more upright, and he almost kind of puts both of his fingers around Baijan's neck, or not both his fingers, both his hands, excuse me, around Baijon's neck, almost as if trying to feel for a pulse on both of the where the both arteries would be on each side.
Well, as a Cappadocian, you understand that your clans can never actually manifest such features. It's part of their particular bane, as it were.
It's more ceremonial than anything for him,
Mm.
but yeah. And he just says, so with the pleasantries out the way, how about we discuss what we're all here for?
Ah, yes, ownership of the body. Well, I myself, I have, of course, under the boon that was owed and paid to me, I currently have official possession over this body. How at this time, believe I have exhausted all academic leads and applications that I could from this particular individual. And as such, I am ready to hand him off to either one of you. Of course, whichever one of you, or rather, whomever comes to possess it, depends somewhat on. Well, I'll be completely honest on how much either one of you is willing to pay, how much you value this particular specimen. I don't think I need to speak of its value to either of you. I will not waste your time with the marketings with the marketing uh, of a bazaar's con man.
And he just looks to Lady Aster and he will say, I believe that I will let you offer first, as after all he was your sire, and you looked awfully hungry upon my arrival. If
She,
anything, I will not let it be known that I was not I have no manners.
It's quite alright, although you are correct, as this individual being my side, do have something of a scale to balance with this particular individual. I'm just going to get a Lady Esther's sheet. Where to start? I don't believe I've ever bet on a person before. Well, never bet on held before. She goes out of her way to correct herself.
The situation is quite different than what we experienced at the auction.
Yes. Well, I would be willing to pay at minimum a major boon for this individual. I believe that given the value that this person has from multiple points of view, they are worth at least that much.
She said a major boon?
And she said a major boon, yeah.
I'm inclined to agree with Lady Aster. And for me, this will be something that I've been looking for a while. So I'll be interested. I will put forth two major boons.
Yes, Primogeneal boons do carry somewhat more. They do carry more weight per boon than the Lady Astor's. No offense, of course. This is simply for matters, and it is simply the way of one who possesses station. I suppose that depends on whether you wish to offer anything further. And Lady Astor kind of does look a bit thoughtful. She thinks to herself for a few moments. I'd be willing to offer 4 mages. By the way, Primogen Bones, if at any point you wish to convince Lady Astor to stand down, you're always free to make manipulation expression, or if you want to be more forceful, manipulation intimidation rolls. It will be contested. She will apply her own. So basically, it's dependent on whoever gets more successes, basically.
Yeah.
But if you do wish for her to stop bidding, after all, you are the Primogen. That carries itself carries some weight with it. Of course, this is a rather awkward situation to be leveraging it, but it does carry with it importance.
Mm-hmm.
And you can always convince her she's paying too much, which well, can one really put a price on Bajan? The answer is yes.
Sure, I'll try manipulation expression.
Okay, she will apply her own to counter. And yeah, you can just kind of tell me how you kind of try and convince her. Oh wow, that's a really good roll. Well done.
Yeah, holy shit.
She actually loses with almost twice your dice. That is an incredible roll. Okay, so how do you convince her to stop? She is at 4 mages though. You will have to outbid her regardless. So maybe make your bid and then convince her to stand down.
Merchant of Bones will just pipe up and he'll say, "Then I will offer 5 major boons, but I will have to say, Lady Astor, that you are already his childer." Shit, I just had it in my head. You're already his child, and you've already most likely gleaned everything that you're going to glean from him, or maybe even get from him from whatever you decide to do. After all, you still have access to his haven and all. I don't believe you would benefit yourself taking control of this body, especially when you already owe Lucretia quite so many boons already.
The last part actually is something that gives her pause. She does realize she already owes this person 8 major boons. Going up to 12 is actually pretty extreme. That is actually a bit dangerous for her to do.
Mm-hmm.
She does stop for a moment. She kind of mulls the point over. Well, You could say it's not exactly his insight I'm after, but you make a fair point. I am quite magnanimous with how I handle prestation, but 12 mages to a single individual may be a bit much even for myself. I do apologize, Lady Giovanni. But even I have to admit, I am entering something of an extreme, even if the price is significant. There are always other avenues, I suppose. Other avenues. She begins mulling over these other avenues. Well, she could just wait for you to eat him, then eat you. That could work. That could work. That's not even a bad strategy. That actually might be the optimal strategy. That's the worst part. That's not even tactically invalid. That's actually highly tactically intelligent. But yes, she kind of thinks to herself. I presume if we've hit 5 mages at this point, we'll be pushing into blood boons. I think owing you 8 mages in a blood boon may be. While I do consider myself something of a gambling woman, that may be unwise even for me. So I shall leave the offer of 5 mages for you to discuss with the Merchant of Bones. Although I would love to discuss paying you a major for the portion of your own library at some point.
She talking to me?
She's talking. She's talking to Lady Giovanni on that.
Okay, gotcha.
Says, well, I'd love to discuss that at some point. But yes, it's strange. I feel somewhat like an auctioneer. But then again, I suppose I set you all up for it. Oh yes. If of course your offer stands, good Trimagen, I would be more than happy to take you up on it.
How could I let Lady Aster's graciousness go to waste? Of course, my offer still stands. 5 major boons.
5 major boons? The former Permagen belongs to you? She kind of just like firmly pats his his very stiff, clammy shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
It gives a very unceremonious thud when she pats it. Would you like for me to prepare some means of transportation for you, or do you already have it in hand?
I do have my carriage waiting for me outside, though I would appreciate some means of getting him inconspicuously into the carriage.
Oh yes, this is what I have the sacks for.
And he just chuckles. It's almost like he's relishing that, like Bajan's because I'm pretty sure you can still hear and stuff when you're torpored, right?
He got torpid through damage, so he's not actually aware. He has been staked for the purposes of safety because no one actually knows if you'll wake up and when from the damage.
Okay.
Because eventually he would heal naturally from the damage, and then he would wake up. But nobody knows when that was, when that would be. So they've just staked him
Good point.
to ensure that he can't regain consciousness. So he is not aware of what's going on, to your knowledge. His eyes have been opened, but he's likely still in a dream, an unconscious dream state.
Fair enough. Okay. Never mind then. But he would just say that would be greatly appreciated. So the offer of the sacks.
Yes. She wanders off and acquires a large sack that can cover. By Jean, she very unceremoniously she unceremoniously just dumps him in, but she does it so that it doesn't really damage him. Granted, he does have a lot of fortitude and doesn't really need to care about that, but she doesn't want to undo her fretting. That would just be.
That would be the real horror of all this.
I mean, that's just not taking proper care of your work, and I mean that's just crude, really.
Even the Cappadocians have standards.
Yeah, pretty much. So she just put him in, make sure the threading doesn't come undone. Not that it doesn't really stand any chance of doing so. Again, it's proper, sturdy surgical thread work. It is well done indeed. She puts him in the sack. She holds the body with ease. She holds the sack with ease, like it's kind of a featherweight to her. She will. She will just say, I do hope nobody recognizes the irregularly large amount of potatoes we buy at this house.
Then perhaps you should make a show of giving some out to the common folk. Perhaps they would appreciate it. At least they will know that you are getting rid of some of your overstock.
Yes.
And he just admires her biceps because that's MOB can't lift that, probably not without a lot of trouble.
He could spend blood to pump his own strength, and he could do it pretty easily. It is just a body, but she doesn't really seem to. She just holds it with one hand. Doesn't really seem to be in any real pain or struggle.
Well then I shall not hold you up any longer unless you need anything more of your Primogen.
Well, there are actually a few matters I believe both of us would like to discuss. They're fairly minor compared to what just transpired, but considering the major players of our clan are all here, couldn't really be a better time to talk about such issues, I suppose.
Sure.
Have you noted how hard it is getting to feed?
Considering the mass embrace of all of the Canites here, yes. I have my own special arrangements, but I can't help but notice from what I've seen from the few younger Canites having an issue, even some of the patrol I believe are having their own fair share of difficulty. If this keeps up, I do not think Odessa will be able to sustain this much longer.
No, but there is a bit more. Have you been receiving more sick recently? Yeah, the much ones you actually have.
He thinks for a moment, his brows furrow, and he just says, "Actually, yes, I have."
A lot of the people you've been receiving have been largely suffering from exhaustion, dehydration, difficulty breathing. I'll just give it to you because your medicine's quite high. A lot of this correlates with a lot of these are symptoms of anemia.
For what you're telling me, it almost sounds like this is from extreme blood loss, anemia.
I have been running into similar issues. I do not believe feeding is going to get any easier. In fact, I think it may only be getting harder. And considering that so many of us are restricted to the rack, I mean, I am not, but even in my domain, I'm finding that hunting is growing more difficult. We may be reaching another crisis point. This recent miracle, it's done wonders for getting people out on the street, but
with all the extra patrols of the city guard and other people, it makes it quite hard. Even though seems to be not much more credence paid to the traditions.
I'm growing concerned that such open supernatural activity combined with hunting problems and mortal suffering from blood loss and sickness is going to expose us to a great many dangers very soon. It would not surprise me if religious institutions started investigating our activity sooner rather than later.
We experienced something similar not too long ago when the plague happened. We had a group of hunters come, from what I understand. So I would not be surprised if they come again, and especially and maybe with all the religious fervor going around, that it might draw the ire of. Would MLB know the Inquisition?
The Inquisition hasn't
Been
really.
around.
Let me double check when it actually starts. Because it does start close to now, I think. It doesn't really start brutalizing Canaanites until a few decades in there.
Oh, okay.
Where is Oh, it has started. It's been around for a few decades already. But where is the Merchant of Bones from? He's from Cappadocia, right?
Yeah, and he Theology 1 Islam, I think.
Yeah. The Inquisition never really reaches the Middle East, although
okay.
There's something arguably just as bad: the Sunni clerics of the Caliphate.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And they, in many ways, mirror the Inquisition. In some ways, are more dangerous, as they do not notify people when they are coming. They just sort of arrive, and because of the decentralized nature of Islam, is a bit harder to track as well. It's a bit harder to predict.
MLB will say though that he will add that we are also at another disadvantage because the nobility have set forth or gave permission to a set of Islamic clerics who are set about the city trying to purge paganistic or excuse me, not paganistic, but those following and practicing pagan traditions.
Worrying. If Odessa's already encountered this issue once, when it is likely that the second occurrence will be more severe than the last.
I'm inclined to agree.
We may want to work on getting that. Well, I don't know what your connections are. I have some connections to the to both the Christian Church and the ruling caliphate, but not enough that I couldn't stop a swarm of angry witch hunters from destroying our havens during the day if it came down to it. I could warn you. I could probably give you 24 hours. I could not stop it. I could probably encourage it. And if it is destined to happen, maybe best that it is directed towards the obvious threats rather than us personally.
I do have some connection to the Caliphate as well, though the question does remain if I would be able to stem the tide of the clerics beating down our doors for our havens as well, though we can definitely look into it more. If not, we'll have to find some way to divert their attention to something else, something maybe possibly bigger than this, if need be.
Yes, I find that I've been dealing with an increasing amount of bodies in recent nights. Normally I'd welcome the influx, but given the cultural impact on the city, it is potentially more dangerous than it is anything else. I'm actually surprised the ruling clerics have not taken more action against us, given the nature of the mass embraces, the exsanguinated bodies, the anemic masses, and the worsening of the situation. If they've already dealt with something like this once, I wonder what is keeping them at bay, or if they're just waiting for something. Maybe they are looking for that damn sword.
Could be. Though I might be able to figure out who might be controlling them behind the scenes, if anything, at least at minimum. But I'm inclined to agree. I believe that perhaps another Canaanite might be behind it. Somebody with much more considerable connections. But then again, I could be wrong.
I will look into it for you, see what I can discover. Will you be at Lady Katarina's ball in the coming weeks? You do have the noble influence to attend if you wish. I think it's noble influence 3, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Then you can secure yourself an invitation at no cost.
I will make sure that I try to attend. After all, it would make I'm not here to follow the same mistakes as our old Primogen. We definitely need to have some kind of presence there. If not me, then at least one of you.
Well, I plan to be in attendance. There's a lot of connections to make there, and I think it will give us a chance to look into some of these behind-the-scenes actions, as you say. I believe that is Katarina's intent.
Well,
Farakoshi's been making a big fuss about how she was staked at her own ball last time.
She was?
Well, not at her own ball, but somebody's ball. I can't remember the name of the house. Was it Dopian or I don't know. She kind of shakes her head, unable to really recall. Speaking of politics, there is actually another issue. This entire praxis is making the prince look dangerously weak.
I agree. And from what I understand of it, it looks like it will not be, it's not simple territory, it's more about resources.
It is. It's less a game of. Well, I was going to say it's less a game of borders, and yet these elders seem to be playing it as if it is both. They have these mass-embraced fledglings running around, acting as fodder to physically defend their holdings, while using them almost like a curtain to screen for their ghouls and mortal allies in the background. Perhaps if one is dealt with, the other will become more vulnerable. But every time something happens with these fledglings, every time a force emerges from the ether, as they seem to come and go as the wind, something happens. I've actually been keeping track of certain political incidents within the various noble houses here. There has been a sudden change in atmosphere among some of the houses. There's been a very strong push for reconciliation between many of the houses. I know one of these is down to that new Malkavian, but as Malkavians do, I believe he's found himself in the middle of a very dangerous war of intrigue.
It's a very unfortunate time to come in for him during such a thing, but
No, yes, the Mistress of Harpies was talking to me about. She'd been discussing recent events with him. He's actually been constantly hiding within his own domain to avoid these Cainite patrols. In fact, I believe if he recounted to her, he's been talking about how his child was almost accosted by one, though she managed to get away.
Then perhaps they might be interested in some kind of arrangement where we can help them against the siege upon the city.
There is another matter. You've heard about how the prince intends to lead a very direct purge of these figures, yes?
Yes. I understand that she's arranging. There's 2 hunting parties being arranged.
Yes. Problem with the other leader, though.
The La Sombra?
The Bruja.
Oh, excuse me.
The La Sombra seem to be very invested on taking out the proxy figures that these elders are using. Very much their style. But this Isabella, she is no friend of the prince. I believe she's she's made it a point that she's only assisting this princedom because she has a certain, a very significant score to settle with one of these elders. I believe it was the former Bruja Primogenate. I believe she wishes to destroy him, potentially even reclaim his blood. As repayment for his failings in leading the clan, all the damage he's caused to the domain, and the fact that he effectively allowed her sire to be destroyed and the sheriff to just walk away from it. I can tell you if I was the Cappadocian Primogen and the sheriff destroyed my shoulder, he wouldn't have seen the next night. In fact, he would have seen the next dawn. The fact that the Brujar Primogen was incompetent enough to allow this to happen, I think, speaks. Well, let's just say I understand, even if I don't necessarily sympathize with her anger. But to be honest, if she's successful, particularly if the prince is not, that only makes the prince look weaker.
Then we need to see exactly what she is planning to do and when and how, and somehow inform the prince, or maybe even stop it ourselves. Unfortunately, Clan Cappadocian is not exactly a martial clan, but we are a deceitful one. At least we have options that other clans don't. And us three here are the best ones to take up that initiative.
I suppose it is all contingent on whether we wish the Princeton to succeed or not. Based on your words, I assume you do.
I have to say it would be a point of pride. I have put a lot of time and effort into forming an alliance when when Benedictus fell with the Ventru and the Tremere, and hiring and putting forth and vetting this new the prince.
Yes, the Tremere has their new region, don't they?
From what I heard, yes. But it would be my what I've been questioning lately is how the prince has seemingly unaware of everything.
I believe she had attempted to get delegate. How effective this was, well, I suppose it remains to be seen whether she's able to hold on to her praxis or not. If she is, then I doubt her rule will be contested for the next century or two, but this will be her greatest challenge. There is one last problem, however. I'm not sure if you've been made aware. It hasn't been officially stated by the court yet, but well, let's just say my friendship with Lady Katerina pays dividends.
By all means, I'm all ears.
The sheriff has not been seen for some nights now. In fact, rumors are beginning to circulate that among the highest echelons of the court that he has departed from the domain, that he is heading back to Europe. He was one of the linchpins holding this domain together. If he's gone, that leaves a huge power vacuum. And if someone unfavorable to the prince takes that position, then, well, this Princeton may as well be as good as ended. A good portion of the Primogen Council does wish to see this prince removed. They'll no doubt exploit this moment of weakness, even if they assist in removing these elders and their fledgling army. They'll simply take credit and state that it was their work that saved the domain rather than the prince's.
Not something I have not. That is not something I have heard, and that is rather concerning. So my question is to both of you: what is your honest opinion? Should Clan of Cappadocian continue to back this prince, or should we look to making alliances with some of the other clans?
I suppose that depends. These elders have not approached us. Until they do, I don't see too much reason to assume that they are interested in aligning with us. As for those who may attempt to turn on the prince after the fact, well, there are the usual suspects. The Sombra, the Setites, the Bruja. She kind of rolls her hand and shakes her head as if very dismissively, as if like, yes, yes. Whether they remain cohesive enough to form a new domain of their own, I suppose, remains to be seen. But if any figure could do it, it would be the Seneschal. He is a very dangerous figure. He wields his power rarely, but I've seen what happens when he decides to be overt. Mountains get moved. He's always been comfortable in the position of Seneschal, though. I've never seen him make a play for the Princeton. Even back during Benedictus's day, he made sure to step aside and made it very clear that he was not the prince.
I wonder why is that, though? I assume he's not that humble. Or maybe he might be waiting for something specific?
Maybe he just does not wish to be seen as taking over the domain openly. That does. But then most princedoms ultimately are taken over openly at some point. A declaration is made and the challenge is either met or the domain folds to the new prince. It is as simple as that. So I can't say I'm entirely sure as to his intent, but I believe if he does have a plan, he'll likely be approaching certain officers of court. He may even be approaching other power players such as myself or Lucretia. If he does, I will inform you. But he's one of very few figures, I think, who could actually contest the prince's current praxis, other than these elders.
Then what I think what we need to do is bring about a campaign of our own, one of large amounts of information gathering, and listen to the pulse of the city and listen to the dark corners where they think, Canaanites do business and think they are safe. We are in the unique position to do that. And I think with as much, if we can bring some more information to bear, especially on the certain plays and secrets and the dealings going on, we might be able to use that to our advantage.
I would speak with the Nosferatu when it comes to matters of intelligence. It is their specialty, and they have secrets that, frankly, they have no right to have access to. It may also be wise conversing with the Malkavians. Speaking of having secrets one has no right to have access to, they seem to know things on a whim. That goes without saying, but they're able to interpret patterns in these events that potentially not even we are able to ascertain, if we can make sure they're still sane by the end of it.
Well, then I will see what I can do about speaking to the heads of both of these clans. And
the Nosferatu have neither the Nosferatu or the Malkavians have Primogen right now. The Nosferatu they were not destroyed, many of them went to ground, but I am aware some of them were destroyed during the initial attack while we were away from the domain. Of course, the Malkavians perished in their entirety. These the current residents and new arrivals. I believe the eldest is Corentin. He is a young elder, according to the Mistress of Harpies. Quite well spoken and quite happy to make deals. He has a child as well,
Hmm.
Evelyn Lister. A bit less predictable, but she seems to have a way with people and getting herself into situations that, like the rest of her clan, she has no right to be in. To be honest, I think both of them may end up running into you before you run into them, given the nature of the devil and speaking their names.
Interesting, interesting. Then I will try to be a point of shelter for them, and hopefully bring them into my arms as a mother would bring her child, and hopefully offer them some kind of comfort in the storm, and maybe use that to our advantage.
I would be careful dealing with Corentin in such a way. He is a young elder. He may not take kindly to patronizing rhetoric. His child, however, may be quite susceptible.
Hmm.
It may be worth offering Corentin something. Maybe he wishes. He has been hungry for connections. I know he's been in discussions with Katerina.
Hmm. Do you know what connections he's looking to make?
Katerina has several noteworthy connections. I'm not entirely sure which one he may be after. He may be after all of them. It wouldn't surprise me if we see a few boons pop up on the ledger in the coming nights that he has made. Perhaps you can make similar deals with him. No doubt he wishes to make friends, given the clan's precarious state right now.
Hmm. I'll definitely keep that in mind then.
There is another Markavian neonate who's entered town, but frankly I have little to say of him. I haven't seen or heard anything of him other than that he's entered the domain. His name was Baptiste, but a beggar fellow. There's a lot of beggar Malkavians nowadays.
Hmm. Either way, I'll find some kind of inroad with the Malkavens, and hopefully we'll, birth something out of that.
Well, that was all I wished to discuss. I find it is not necessarily the war or the war itself that is so dangerous to us right now. Rather, it is the politics behind it. But I suppose that is part and parcel for our kind. But that is all.
You brought up some great points, and definitely I appreciate both your insights on the matter, and we'll definitely make sure that we come out on the right of this.
Even if we cannot win, we can at least lose with enough graces to secure our position.
And then our work will begin anew, again. Either way, I will not tarry any longer and press upon your hospitality. Lucretia,
That is quite all right. I was very pleased to have you here this evening.
we should do this more often, considering that the previous showing, the way the clan was operating previously is not something I would want to keep up, but having more of these kind of uh, conclaves or just simple sharing of information amongst the clan would be better for us in the long run, I would think. But we shall see.
In any case, Well, it has been an honor to host you both this evening and to do such good business. And if I may, I will see you out and wish you both a most pleasant evening. If you do encounter troubles within Justinopolis, particularly given the current toxic nature of the Mount, feel free to contact me through the mind as opposed to directly, or simply send me some measure of correspondence and I'll do what I can to find you as opposed to the other way around.
Merchant of Bones just kind of smiles and chuckles internally at that, but yeah. And he will simply just give like a small little bow and kind of just turn and start walking, almost as if waiting for Lucretia to kind of like follow him.
Yeah, the three of you have been walking towards the door, in which case Lucretia will send you out. Mildred, your ghoul, has been kind of waiting outside the door the entire time, very stoically and patiently.
Mm-hmm.
And Lady Astor will wish you both a pleasant evening, and Lucretia will wish you the same, as she will shut the door and well, she won't shut the door. She will wait for your ghoul Mildred to call the carriage. At which point, your cargo can be placed on the back, and you can take your leave. Lady Astor simply wanders off around a corner. Does not re-emerge. Presumably taking her leave in a different fashion, but yes, I believe of that as we both depart. The Merchant of Bones with his prize. We may end the scene there. Thank you, players, for playing. Thank you all, play for playing. Thank you, watchers, for watching. We'll see you all next time. Good night.